ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We'll be talking more clearly, later. The order is we're going to start with one of the pieces of music in the Arabian Nights up at the theatre. Zara will talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Then we're going to just have 3 or 4 of us talking a little bit to celebrate this 20th anniversary of the Minack. Sarah?
Well, I'd like to present to you the cast of Arabian Nights singing the finale from the show, which you will all get to hear again later on, with a slightly cut down dance thing. Which will be very lovely. There you go, off you go. Thank you very much.
The opportunity of speaking for just a while longer, and I'm going to pass over to Gavin. This is partly to camera because clearly there are hundreds of alumni out there who couldn't be here today, it being midweek, mid-working time, and 5 hours from London. And even more from York, as I found out yesterday. So this is going to be filmed and it's going to go out on YouTube hopefully within half an hour or so, and the alumni group will be alerted that it's there, and you never know, they might even time it so they can see that and then go into the webcam and see the show at the Minack tonight. So Gavin's going to start us off. Phil, the theatre manager from the Minack, is going to say a few words. Steve is, and well, I might say a few as well. So, Gavin, over to you.
Sally, thank you very much, and thank you all for being here, for all that you've done to and are doing to make this what we call the Minack residency. But there's a lot built around this presence at the Minack and this production. And over the years, I've seen some extraordinary projects working mainly in schools and in some centres of special needs, which have been intensely moving. And it's a very, very important aspect of life at Central. For those of you who are not part of the Central family, and most of you are, but we have also some very special guests with us tonight from the Penzance Town Council, so we want to thank them. So thank you for being with us. And just to sort of underpin what this relationship means, I mean, as you know, this is the 20th anniversary of a project that was instituted and was the brainchild of Sally, and Sally will have her rightful place of talking to us shortly, and I'll shut up in a minute. But 20 years, it's a tremendous achievement, and there's somebody else who very much wanted to send good wishes, and he really, really wanted to be here, and that is our president, Michael Grandage, who has a company running in the West End in London at the moment, and they opened last night in the Cripple of Inishmaan with Daniel Radcliffe, the real Harry Potter, in the lead role. And of course, he simply couldn't get away for today. But Michael is a Penzance boy, born and bred, and still lives here. He's not somebody who just dived into the West Country for a weekend holiday home. He's very much not just a Cornishman, a man of Penzance. So we take that link very seriously, and he sends his best wishes to everybody, and thanks to all who've been doing so much as well. Just a few points about Central. Some of you, some alumni who've come back, those of you who we're addressing on camera, to say that things are in very good shape. These are worrying times. They've been very challenging times for higher education, and particularly for these small specialist institutions such as Central. One thing that's happened since we were last in Cornwall a year ago is that we've now become Royal Central. And the Queen, it was the last gesture the Queen made at the end of her Diamond Jubilee year. She said, "Oh, I really think Central ought to become royal." The one thing she did do, though, I shouldn't really broadcast this aloud, but there was discussion about whether we might change the title, change the name of the school in some way to reflect more on it. The one thing everybody said was that you can't change is the word Central. It is Central. So when the recommendation came from Balmoral to the Prime Minister, said the Queen is minded to recommend that the Central School of Speech and Drama should henceforth be known as the Royal School of Speech and Drama. So we had a big dilemma, but we came through, and Central we remain, and primarily Central. It's an age of league tables and huge competition, but one thing that I would like again to commend, Sally played a very big part in our recent QAA, the Quality Assurance Agency's audit. Every 5 years they come round, they're like the school inspectors, and they come round and put you on the rack in a most horrendous manner. And we've come through with flying colours. It's just been announced, the initial response. So that's a terrific relief, though we were pretty sure all the way that we would be all right. But thank you, Sally, for all you did on them. And Matt, indeed, yes, Matt was there, and very much a part of that, and obviously several others within Central who are not here. But many have come down, and which is a measure of how important this occasion really is. We've come out high in other league tables. The Guardian League table recently placed us 4th amongst all the specialist institutions in the country, and highest amongst the drama colleges, and so too with the Times, where we are the only drama school in the first 30 of all the universities in the country. We're up in the top 5. So things are going very, very well in all sorts of ways. So our thanks to you all, and our thanks to many people who've worked on these residencies and productions over the last 20 years, who can't be here but maybe are hearing from us down the line, not so much over the air, looking at that extraordinary museum over the road, telegraphic communication. So I just want to say, well, thanks also to everybody who prepared food for us, and the cable station who we have enjoyed being here for the hospitality. I hope they've done well out of us as well. And to the Minack, who, just to say, we don't take this for granted. It's been every year for 20 years. We never assume that the invitation will come back, but we're great campaigners. Won't be tired if it doesn't. But thank you very, very much. And Phil, I think you'd like to say a few words.
I will, certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin.
Well, welcome to those of you who are in Porthcurno and the Minack for the first time, and it's great to see some faces that I've not seen for a few years. I see faces, I can't think which show it was, but I recognise you still. And as many of you know, I can't say anything without a microphone in my hand, but this will have to do it still. But it's great to see you. And I say, 20 years ago, I got this phone call from Sally. And we've been doing school shows for several donkey's years, basically, with Knee High and people like that. And we were looking for a change of tack, and Sally suddenly, well, kept annoying me really. And, and then we did it. But what Central brought to us were skills that we certainly didn't have, and to the community as a whole. The workshops, the placements in school. I mean, it was St Leonard's School where my kids went, and I went, and my father went, and my grandfather, and all that sort of stuff. And suddenly they have drama in the school, which they'd never had. And it was a great thing to happen around here. Nancy Alvin, the special schools that you worked with, the Kernow School all those years ago. I mean, beautiful. I'm sure Nancy Alvin went this afternoon, I think. It's great to see them still coming. And so we really appreciate what you do for us and what you've done for us over those years. And just enjoy the sunshine while it's here. I'm not going to speak for you very long. But I just want to thank you for what you do for us. You bring skills to us that we didn't have. And it's been a brilliant, that cooperation, and it was innovation that you brought, and we've learned a lot from you. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Steve Farrier, for those of you who don't know me. I'm guessing most of you might know me. I'm not going to talk for very long, but I do want to start in a slightly odd place. And if you've ever been in one of my lectures, then you'll know that I like starting in an odd place. I want to start, I've been reflecting that how do you reflect on 20 years? And part of things, some of the stuff I've been researching recently is to do with intergenerational work. So groups of older people working with groups of younger people. And I was thinking in the research, how do kind of non-family groups pass on their values? How do values get passed between groups? Especially in non-stable communities like Central. I mean, the majority of the people come down as students, and every 3 years it's a different set of students. So how do these values get passed on? What's the mechanisms that operate? And I've been thinking about this and thinking about my experience. This is my 14th show I've seen at Minack this year. And I think it's probably through a few things, how those values get passed across. I think one is that that anyone who comes and works on these projects really has a commitment to the community. And it's through that the ideas are passed. But, and I think this is crucial, in that passing, those ideas and values are changed. So it's easy to look back and think that the last 20 years has been the same, every year has been the same. And I think when I look back over my time, the traditions, they come and go. And they're transformed in the process of being passed from one group to another through third years to first years. Those they change as you inherit. And also they become memorialised by people who graduate, who think back to, Amy was saying, so is the show as good as my one? To which I'd go, sorry Amy, which one were you in? That's because my memory's rubbish, not because your show was rubbish. Obviously, I directed it. So then I think that the work remains fresh through this transformation as these values are passed over. But there are things that haven't really changed. One is the commitment of the students. When pretty much anyone who sees your shows, I think, talks about the commitment. And anyone who works in the local community thinks about your commitment. And their learning, and the local community, the second years, the staff who've been down year after year, who come down. Likewise, the community that support us here. I think we often will say, well, we're coming down to work in the community, but that's only really if the community, at the theatre, at the cable station, Mick and Sandra let us use the... So, it's only really through their commitment to us as well that this project can go ahead. And because the project, as Gavin was saying, seems like such a fixity in the kind of cycle of the academic year, although it's by no means taken for granted, Phil, it's easy to forget what a fantastic opportunity this is for learning for students. I think they go, oh, this is nice, but it's such a fantastic opportunity. And it's a remarkable testament, I think, that's going for 20 years that, to creative tenacity, to commitment, and to a way of thinking about how we communicate with the audiences. Over 20 years, that will be thousands and thousands and thousands of people would have seen. So I'm thinking the first year, first school show, there's some people who are now 25 whose first show would have been the show they saw at the Minack. So that's how much influence you can have. I think for me, from a personal perspective, what I've got from this project over the years is some really deep friendships and relationships. but not in the way that goes against any of our wishes. But I suppose one of the things that has got George is staring at me like that. I think what affirms, I think for me, one thing that I will take away is that this kind of project really affirms for me what higher education is. There's a stereotype that higher education, you hear it on the news all the time, is somehow an ivory tower in which academics who dress like they're in Harry Potter, although I do get to do that once a year, sit and think and write stuff down and don't really have a contact with the communities or impact in the world. So for me, my experience of working on Day and working at Central isn't an ivory tower. It's actually much more a concrete theatre on the side of a cliff in Cornwall. I'm going to leave it at that.
Steve always was more eloquent than me. I knew he should have gone last. Okay, there's a few things. I will try not to keep you long. And if the first years need to go, I'll just keep talking as you leave. That's fine. I'm used to that in my life. So Phil said, yeah, okay, it's about today, but it's also covering 20 years. And don't worry, I'm not going to list all the productions or go into memory lane of every moment. Yeah, it was 20 years ago that I phoned up Phil and said, when I was a first year undergraduate student at Exeter University, we came to the Minack in the mid-1970s. Obviously, I was only a child. I went to university very young. Can we come? Can we come? We've got this new course starting, the DE course. Can we come to the Minack? And he went, well, there is a 3-year waiting list at least, so, you know, farewell. So I gave up, actually, at that point, and it was David, my lovely husband, who supported this venture for nearly 20 years, who was the one who said, don't just leave it at that. Write to him, explain what the course is about, what you're trying to do with the course, the whole education angle. Do that. Don't just leave it there. So I did, and that's when Phil came back to me and said, oh, all right, you can have a slot. So David, who's not here, he'll be here tomorrow night. Thank you, because a lot of this is actually down to you persevering. Second thing I want to say, the people here, the students here, you are actually representing about 1,800 students, 1,800 to 2,000 students who have been down here and worked at the Minack or in the outreach context or the under fives. That's a lot. So to all of you, if you're watching, well, you won't all be watching, obviously, there might be 4 or 5. These guys here, you saw the number. It's great, isn't it? It's just Minack. You'll recognise that kind of number. So you are representing nearly 2,000 students who've been down here. It's been a difficult day today. I woke up discombobulated. I was explaining this to some third years up at the Minack this afternoon. And the reason wasn't just because of the minor hangover from being in the cable station last night. It was because the memory was crowded with ghosts. Perhaps because it is the 20th anniversary, but just memories crowding my head. And I found it very, very difficult to deal with today. Curious, and obviously I can't relay them all. So I gave myself 2 minutes to just go and some of these won't mean a thing to you, some of them will mean things to you. Dragons and boats. I just see dragons, boats and fish on the Minack stage, behind the Minack stage, flying around. Warm-ups. I like the flowers, Bella Signora, James, Zara, warm-ups. Sentences, odd sentences that maybe sometimes only 4 or 5 people will know. Mazeltov the Mask, Two Poos Parker, Inner Lou, Damp, Dark and Gold. It won't mean anything to you, but they just kept coming into my head all day. Off stage, mice on rocks, fire bins on rocks, Avalon on rocks, many travellers on rocks, in Mistormia, through the Tulgey Wood, in various Greek islands, John Ellaway crawling along the top of the arches. That was in a graduate production. Obviously, we wouldn't let any of the undergraduates do that. The tech nights, the cabarets, and those aesthetic moments of shows, they've just been crowding my head all day. Amanda and I on Pedenvander Beach, which is the nudist beach, we weren't, obviously, when we were down here researching Mythbreakers for Amanda's show. Amanda had a tough job. She was the first person who directed a show, and I handed it over, and she handled it beautifully. She had me on her shoulder the whole time, going, oh, I'm upset that I'm not directing. But thank you, Amanda, you handled it beautifully. So memories. The next thing, where has it led, this Minack project? A couple of people have already mentioned the outreach work, and that has been amazing. I'm so glad that a teacher from Pendine is here, and I've said to you, Rose, I want to just have a word with you about a story about Pendine School that I want to share with you. But yes, the Sen School in Redruth, Nancy Hilverne, the TIE tours, the St Leven's residency, the workshops, the under fives, this expansive array of work which just kind of infiltrates the area for a week or more. And then there's Fuse down in Kent, Fuse Festival, and it's these tentacles where the project has gone that's so exciting. Fuse Festival work is there because a member of DEOO and DE99 were down watching one of the Minack shows and said, we're now in Kent, we're working on Fuse, can you do something for us? We can give you a bit of money for it, can you come to us? So now Fuse. Gareth and the wonderful piece that's up in Oldham, James Atherton, D96, the first year of the Minack, artistic director of Oldham Theatre Workshop, who's helped coordinate the tour. So it's on and on and on, all from that one phone call and the follow-up letter that's taken us into all these places. It's important at a time like this when, with the misgovernance, or misgovernance by Gove, that we recognise the importance of what we do. We work closely with the community to create artistic environments, and it's so important that we carry on doing that. That isn't a plea to Philip, it's just critical that we maintain our vigilance with the arts at this time. I don't think any of us in the industry are underestimating the challenge that is ahead of us at the moment with the current government mood. And it's hard, it's going to be hard. But there's a number of you out there who will be able to support us. A couple more things. I was up at the theatre just before the end of the show, just out in the car park, and an elderly gentleman and his wife were coming up out of the theatre, and they were walking across the car park, and I just happened to be standing there, and they were saying, oh, it's good, wasn't it? Well, a good show. And the gentleman went, yes, well, they always do such a good show, Central. Such a good show. Always such a good show. And the wife went, yes, well, they're professional, aren't they? Yes, always good. And I just stood there, you know, this silly smile on my face. And I said, I did stop them and say, I just need you to know it's our 20th anniversary today. And that meant so much overhearing that. And the partner or the wife just said, this man has supported you for years. He thinks you're wonderful. And you forget that, don't you? You just actually forget that people come back and think the shows are good. And that's just made my day. I mean, obviously they will. You know what I mean? I have it's so difficult to do thanks because you know you're going to miss people. So I will do a coverall and thank everyone who's been involved with the Minack productions and the outreach opportunities over these 19 years, this being the 20th show. They are too numerous to mention, but when I walked into the cable station last night, that was before I had the cider that led to the hangover, I was much struck by the date staff who were in the venue, which is rare. The budget doesn't normally stretch to that, but it was so fantastic to see the date staff in the pub from their various parts of the world. And it has been so much about that staff group encouraging and working and doing wonderful things. So that's one group of people who deserve a huge, huge thanks. I want to thank both DE96 and DE15 as representatives of those 20 years. DE96, we came here, there were, I think, 31 in the cast, and there was me, Chris Elwell, Sid. Sid did everything, lighting, props, and the lovely David. And that was it, up at the vineries, £1,000 budget, nightmare. We did front of house, we did absolutely everything. Wasn't a nightmare. I was talking to a member of D96 the other day, and she said, you know what, it was actually a privilege that we did everything. And I am so glad we did, that we mended the props. We never went back to the vineries. We were back, we were mending props. So I regarded it as a privilege. So thank you, D96, because what you did forged the way for everyone else, because we didn't lose money and we were allowed to come back again. And indeed, the show prompted Philip to invite us back again. I'd like to thank various senior managements who have supported this project over the years. That's right from Linda Cookson and Debbie in that first year, and to Gavin, who's been a tremendous supporter of this project, more so than any other principal. And I'm really grateful to you for that, Gavin, because it does mean a lot to us all. We're not just forgotten down there in Cornwall. Gavin's been a few times, and if he can't come, he's terribly sorry he can't come. I've already thanked David, so I won't thank him again, but there are people like Mick and Sandra who run the cable station and who've been so important. We didn't meet you that first year, but the second year we were over in the sports hall. That's Eddie's year D97. The sports hall no longer exists. It was over there somewhere. We did the cabaret, you did the catering, and we've been thankful and grateful to the cable station ever since for their support. And you know, Mick, how much that has meant to us over the years. Thank you. I'm not going to cry. The last person I'd like to thank is Steve, because Steve picked this bugger up and carried it on so well. So I just want to wasn't going to cry. For taking on this with the staff team who I started with, and making it work so spectacularly well. And indeed passing over things like accommodation to Richard Appleby. Brilliant. And actually making this huge monster of a project doable, because it has expanded so much in the last 4 or 5 years as the course has expanded. I think I'm done. I am so sorry.
So you've got something you should do, particularly for the town councillors and those who are not part of the central family.
Sorry.
You've made reference to certain course descriptions, you know,
Yep.
and I think one of the things that's not understood, perhaps, particularly by the people you met in the car park, is that the people who take part in this project aren't first study actors.
No.
And that the nature of what this course, what BA date means, I think a few people might just want very quickly that explaining.
Yeah,
right?
I just assume everyone knows.
No.
Drama Applied Theatre and Education is people who are working towards facilitating drama work in various different community groups, in schools, abroad, overseas, sometimes abusing drama and theatre, and working in a range of different contexts, quite often directing shows themselves, still sometimes performing, whether it's in TIE or moving into more formal performing contexts. But it's a wide-ranging course. It's theoretically grounded. The second year work, yes, we have work in Cornwall here, but Selena's just come back from India with a group out there, as well as an MA student. There's been a group, Kat went out to Joburg in South Africa, where a group were working out there with elders and previous townships and so on and so forth. So it's about doing great things with drama. And that's the important thing about the course. But you still act very well. I should say you act very well. And thank you, Penzance, for welcoming us all these years. Is that all right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
We have to bid farewell to the first years shortly, because you're going to be on stage soon. And we'll just carry on drinking, okay? But there'll be some wine for you after the show. Thank you very much for marking this very, very special moment. Thank you.